What is the impact of AI on startups and organizations in general? You're watching Microsoft Startup AI School, a Microsoft Reactor series of exciting and informative sessions where we introduce you to the basics of Gen AI and show how you can use AI to enhance your creativity, productivity, and efficiency. Hi, everyone. I'm Suzanne, a Microsoft Program Manager with the Microsoft Reactor and your host for Microsoft Startup AI School series. So before we start, drop an emoji in the chat on how you're feeling today and also let us know about your knowledge on today's topic. 1 being curious, 10 being an expert, and ready to volunteer to be the next speaker. Well, and of course, you can take this time to hit on the like and subscribe button and be informed of upcoming episodes. So yeah, so I'm just going to drop a link here and you can add to your bookmark. So today's topic is all about integrating large language models with multi-modal AI. It's definitely a popular one. So if you would like to revisit this episode or other episodes in this Startup School series, you can also check our on-demand page. So yeah, I've dropped the link there as well. So yeah, today I'm super honored to have 2 great friends on the show. We have Marcus and Kevin. So let's have them both up. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Everyone.
Yep, great to have you both on the show today. So Marcus, you've been on the show before, right? And as usual, I would love to have you here because you do the best demos. But for our friends watching this today, let's have you do a quick introduction of yourself.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Marcus. I'm a technical specialist in Microsoft Singapore. So I focus mainly on data and AI.
Great. And we have Kevin. Yeah, and we have Kevin. So Kevin may be a familiar face to some of you. So especially if you've visited Microsoft Singapore and seen some of our special AI showcases, he's probably the face that you've met as well. So Kevin, why don't you do a quick intro of yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kevin. I'm an envisioning specialist at the Experience Center Asia. And in my day job, what I get to do is inspire business leaders to embrace digital transformation, actually more and more AI transformation, through immersive experiences that we showcase in our Experience Center. So I get to have a lot of fun, and it's great to be here today.
Thank you. So, okay, so now the fun part as well. So we usually do a casual piece, like a question and answer kind of thing, so that we know our speakers better. So today we're going to do 2 truths and 1 lie, just so that we know everyone on a more fun and casual part. So I'll start first. Okay, so I'll give like 2 truths and 1 lie. So first one, I'm left-handed. Second one, I attempted being an entrepreneur at the age of 7. And then lastly, I'm a program manager now, previous life a tech auditor. So okay, guys, Marcus and Kevin, you can guess which one is the truth and which one is the lie.
I think the second one is a lie.
Just because I give you that the blur look most of the time when you talk tech. Yeah. Okay, Kevin, what do you think?
Agreed. I think I'm going to go with Marcus on this one.
No. Okay, so the lie is I'm left-handed. I'm actually right-handed. So yeah. So yes, my previous life I was a tech auditor. And then I decided to pursue like my comms in the tech industry. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So maybe Marcus, you go ahead with your 2 truths and 1 lie.
Okay. Let me think. Okay. I recently completed a full marathon. Second one, I recently conquered the tallest mountain in Southeast Asia. And the third one, I used to play table tennis as a school representative.
Well, let Kevin go first. As in, like, Kevin can give the answer.
Let's go with marathon. Maybe, yeah. I don't think you've done a marathon recently, no.
Okay, I know the answer. I think it's the last one is a lie.
No, the first one.
I
completed half marathon, not full marathon.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay, Kevin, your turn.
Uh, I should just mix things up a bit over here. So just like Marcus, I'm gonna say I used to play table tennis for a school and as one of my options. So that's number one. I used to play table tennis. Um, Number two is that I recently completed a 10K run, 10K run. And then number three, I am someone who loves to travel. So which one is it?
Marcus, you go first.
I guess the second one is a lie.
I think the table tennis is a lie.
Marcus, you know me so well. Yeah. How can it be? Yeah. So yeah, I actually used to play table tennis for a school, and no, I have not been running, not recently. So I wish I could do a half marathon. I'm inspired by you, Marcus.
Yes, let's do
Okay,
that.
We can do it
okay,
together.
guys, I need to revisit our friendship. Sure. Okay, so I hope that was fun. So let's hurry a little. I'm sure like many of our friends tuning in, they can't wait to hear more about your session today. So I'll quickly highlight our code of conduct here. So basically for everyone to be respectful in your comments, have a great time, and ask questions in the chat, and we'll answer them during Q&A. So Marcus and Kevin, over to you.
All right. Well, so Marcus, it's great to have you back again. And I hear that you have like many more things to share with us on generative AI after the last session, popular speaker that you are. For those of you who don't know Marcus that well, he's a technical specialist here in Microsoft. And apart from focusing on data and AI technologies, he really helps customers to drive innovation in the area of generative AI. Fun fact, he is also perhaps one of the most certified individuals that I know. Last I checked, Marcus, I think you have like 68 certifications on LinkedIn. I myself, I think I have like none. I better up my game over here. But back to today's session on expanding AI horizons. What do you have for us today, Marcus?
Yeah, so we've been talking about junior stuff, and that's where thanks for having me continue the conversation. For those who joined the previous session, I did talk about the introduction about Gen AI, and today I'll talk a little more on expanding the use cases where we talk about a multi-modal Gen AI application, right? So before we get through into that, right, maybe I'll just do a quick recap, for those who are new to Gen AI as well as new to what would be the offering that Microsoft provide. So I'm just showing a quick overview from Microsoft standpoint. What we provide under the Azure AI standpoint, right? So first of all, of course, we will have the Azure AI infrastructure. Basically, we are referring to those GPUs, those high bandwidth networking, right? InfiniBand, etc., which offer as a so-called service to help customers for those who want to build their own AI model or even a large language model, right? But a lot of us, maybe we are not to that extent on using the infrastructure. We are more looking at the application side of the things, right? So that's where you will see that there will be a different kind of a component that we can use to build an AI-enabled application. So underlying, you will have the Azure Machine Learning as the foundation platform for you to do complex prompt flow orchestration. For example, if let's say in your GenAI application, you need like multiple system prompt, etc., where I sort of like shared a quick demo previously, that's where fall under the Azure Machine Learning, right? Or even sometimes want to do some fine tuning on the large language model. This is where the Azure Machine Learning will come into picture, right? One layer above would then be the Azure AI services, where we have, of course, the Open AI services, where will be our focus today. And not to forget about other Azure AI services like AI search, AI speech, vision, connectivity, document intelligence, etc. Right? And later on in the sessions, you will see that all of these AI services can actually work hand in hand together to enable this multi-modal kind of a Gen AI application itself, right? And then moving one step above, right? Besides the GPT model that we are familiar with, Of course, there are certain scenarios where we want to adopt open source model, or maybe there is also a trend on moving to a small language or model together with a large language model as well, right? So this would be fall under the Azure AI Studios, where as a developer yourself, you can sort of like pick and choose what you want over here. All right. Now, um, if you look at a Microsoft tech stack itself, right, or for those different Lego block that I mentioned, right, in actual fact, Microsoft is actually powered by Azure AI itself. So just look at the top layer where you have the Copilot as well as the partner solutions, right? So those are the so-called pre-built solutions that we offer to our customers based on the different Lego block that I described just now. All these are various AI services, right, to provide to our customers. Of course, there are certain citizen developers where they want to do a low code kind of development. For example, they can use a Power Apps, they can use a Power Automate, they can use a Power BI to build their own application. This is where some of these components are using the same AI services under the hood as well, right? So I just want to give a quick, bird eye view on the various a Microsoft solution is actually built on top of the AI services that we offer to our customers. All right. Now, what would be the scenario where we need a multi-modal Gen AI, right? So in a previous session, I talked a lot on, mainly on the text-based kind of use cases, right? But if we extend that horizon a little bit on integrating additional component, for example, we are looking at images, we are looking at videos, we are looking at speech itself, right? It actually adds different dimension to our AI-enabled application, right? I always like to use this analogy, right? When we are thinking about creating a AI application, right? Regardless of Gen AI or even like a classical kind of AI kind of solutions, right? A simple analogy, right, is that we will have our eye, right, as a human, and in for a machine, this is where you would then use a computer vision, right? Then you will have our ear as well as a mouth where we can listen and speak. This is where in AI context you will have a speech to text as well as a text to speech, right? And then we can think, right? We can process the text. This is where the large language model will be the brain, right, processing the text itself. So we are building this so-called AI-enabled application, right? We are trying to sort of like mimic a human, right? So that we will have the kind of a different experience when we interact with a digital solution itself, right? So some of the use cases that we have seen, right? The very first one, of course, is increase the productivity, right? Some of the technical patterns that we have seen, right? Internal virtual assistants, or maybe analyzing the document, right? Or maybe doing some of these business analytics, right? We see that as a top use cases on having a multimodal Gen AI, right? Second one, automate some of the processes, especially on fraud detections, document processing, supply chain, etc. Which later on I'll show you a simple example on how we can combine computer vision, workflow, as well as Gen AI to sort of like automate a certain common use cases in our corporate world, right? And of course, the third one, improve our customer experience. I suppose most of us has been dealing with bot itself, right? Sometimes it's kind of boring in the sense that we're just using text, right? What if you want to improve the kind of experience? For example, you want to enable speech within the customer experience itself, right? So that's another example on, or rather, I would say a very good use cases or good candidate to enable this customer experience using Gen AI as well as the additional Azure AI services, right? And lastly, building the creative content. Imagine that now your Gen AI application can see the world in a way, can see the world now. This is where you'll be able to provide a more accurate kind of a prompt to guide the AI to create the content that you want over here, right? So this is where we do see that across the board itself, we do see either generating like a new revenue stream, looking at differentiated kind of experience, or even modernize some of these internal processes itself. All right. So that's a quick overview on Gen AI as well as the use cases.
Yeah, so thanks for that recap from previous sessions on covering some of these use cases. I see in your slide you're also calling out things like accessibility in the third pillar over there on improved customer experience. So, I mean, very relevant in today's context. So today, actually, just today, we are celebrating a Global Accessibility Awareness Day as well, and just thinking about how Gen AI is changing the way that we can interact. We can help people with disabilities, make technology, make the environment around us more accessible. It's fantastic. So when I talk to customers, a lot of them are also always asking and thinking about how they can modernize their workflows, their processes. How do they think about incorporating multimedia like audio images into their workflow. It could be like invoicing use cases where they want to figure out how they can, instead of having to retype things in, how they scan things in as well, right? So I I mean, it seems like we're in this whole new era of Gen AI, and that's all possible now today, right? Right, Marcus?
Yeah, so I think spot on, whether it's accessibility or some of the workflow. So probably this is one of the topics that I want to get started. So I will start with this thing called GPT-4 Turbo with Vision, right? So earlier on I spoke a lot on GPT 3.5, GPT-4, but when we introduce a GPT-4 Turbo with Vision, it's sort of like a true addition dimension, right? I think just now some of the scenario that you mentioned, for example, accessibility, I think that's a good example in the sense that now the large language model, in the sense that it can understand or see the world, so to speak, and then perhaps it will be able to, I don't know, guide the users or maybe provide an additional capability within an existing application, right? So the whole idea of a GPT-4 Turbo with a vision is that in addition to text, you are able to include images or even videos to be part of the prompt. And GPT model will try to interpret your questions based on the text as well as the images that you provide and then generate the responses for you. So that's where you see it add additional dimension when we are looking at building a Gen AI solution, right? So in this case, what would be the things that that it can do, right? Because think of use cases where you upload, you take a random picture and then you try to ask about, hey, can you explain what's inside these images, or I'm facing these so-called challenges. This is the picture. How can you help me to do that, right? So with GPT-4, it will process the text, right? But with GPT-4V, what it does is that it will also process the images itself, combining the prompt, the text, or the questions that you put in, and then generate the responses based on what you have over there, right? So this is where we see a totally new dimension of the use cases on having a Gen AI application to see the world and generate the responses itself. All right. So double click a little bit on how it works, right? I know this is a very lengthy slide, but I just want to call out a few things, right? First thing first, when we upload the images itself, it actually go through another deep learning processing, which is we usually call a CNN, convolutional neural network, so that the images will get converted into a so-called numbers that the algorithm can process, right? So we will have the embedding of the images. It will then combine with the prompt that we have. Basically, that will also get converted into embeddings, right? It get embedded, and based on the combination of these two information, it will then sort of like decide what is the weight of the of the input, and then generate the response for you, right? Now, one thing I want to call out is that for GPT-4V, right, although it can accept images data as well as text data, right? For the output specifically, it will only output text for now, right? I do have a question, when I meet with some of the developers or customers, they will just say, hey, in that case, I want it to respond images in addition to, text itself. Can I do that, right? The short answer, of course, you can do that as well, right? Because within the Azure Open AI umbrella, you do have another model called DALI 3. So potentially you can get the responses, pass into DALI 3, generate the images, and then reply back to, back to the users that you want. So you start to see, right, it's really up to our creativity on how we want to enable the kind of user experience to our users, right? Now, so I'll just quickly show you some example first before I dive into my portal to show you, the actual demo, right? So perhaps this is a simple example, right, on I upload the image, and then basically I'm trying to seek some ideas, right, on getting the Gen AI to help me to generate description as well as the content for these particular images, right? Perhaps I'm trying to, list down this a building, for vacation or rental, right? So the prompt that I have over here would then be, generate exciting content for this image and talk about the and don't talk about the content you cannot see, right? And then, describe this entire thing in only 6 sentences, right? So not surprised, it would then, give you the title, give you the responses, right? You might be asking, hey, what's the difference between this and the traditional computer vision model, right? Because existingly, there are a lot of a computer vision model where it can do object detection or even writing a caption for you, right? But in this case, there are two different things I want to call out. Why is it so useful? The first thing is that you don't need to train the model. You don't need to train the computer vision model because under the foundation model itself, all these so-called images are being trained, right? Based on the open source data that we can capture. So that actually make your time to market very fast, right? Second thing, if you have noticed, I can actually, put in the prompt and sort of like decide the output that I want over here, right? If I use the so-called traditional computer vision model, it will maybe just give me a very generic caption based on what is being trained, right? But in this case, I can also start to prompt to say that, hey, maybe I want to respond in 6 sentences, for example, or maybe I want to use an eye-catching description, right? So that's where you start to see, that actually makes the GPT-4V stand apart from, the usual computer vision model, right? Another example, I think this is a very interesting example, right? Likewise, when we talk to human, we always say, hey, context is everything, right? Context is very important. It's actually the same thing for the GPT-4V model as well, right? So I'll just use this example, right? Maybe Kevin, tell me what do you see on this text over here? You can guess, yeah.
You are putting me in a spot. I mean, I feel like that's maybe someone's signature, or it could be some grocery list. I have no idea, man.
Okay, so let's see, right? If we put in GPT-4V, it says that, hey, the text is not readable, but it appears to be a signature that looks like mark, right? That's I think that's a good guess as well, right? It looks like a signature, right? Um, but if let's say we remove an additional thing, right? Then the prompt that I give is that, hey, extract the text, explain what you think this is, right? That's why you see it will, instead of just now detecting as a mark, now it sees, hey, maybe this is a milk and stick because the second word looks like a stick, right? So it says that, hey, maybe this is look like a shopping list or ingredient, right? And if we unhide everything, extract all text, same thing, the same prompt, right? But with additional context itself. This is where you start to notice that, hey, it appears to be a handwritten shopping list itself, right? So likewise, when we are using the GPT-4V or the multi-model, providing the right context is also very important, right, on guiding the model itself. All right.
Yeah.
Now, I think this is another very interesting example over here. In fact, I've been working with quite a fair bit of customers on similar scenario, not car insurance, but a similar scenario. But what makes this a difference is that we are now combining the so-called computer vision with a Gen AI, and we can then guide the output to be, for example, in this case, a JSON format. Maybe in this case I do have a downstream system to actually do a real-time calculation on the risk factor, for example, right? And usually the application or system integration uses a JSON, right? So in this case I can sort of like ask the model to say, hey, based on this one, can you generate the description for me based on a certain format, in this case a JSON format, so that I can then integrate this into my downstream application, right? In this case, not surprised, it would then say, hey, this is the car maker, this is the model, this is the license plate that it thinks it is, and some of the descriptions that you have over there, right? So that's where you start to see the use cases start to explode with the images itself.
Yeah, I think you're covering such a breadth of different use cases over here. I mean, from image recognition with computer vision that then gets enhanced beyond just a simple description to adding additional context around using generative AI to add context around that image as well, apart from just specific image recognition, to potentially even video analytics. Yeah, and then on the flip side, I think you covered a little bit around outputs when we think about outputs of image generation as well, right? And DALI, and so for those of you who don't know as well, you can actually leverage. I guess it's Microsoft Designer, and that's a free application that does leverage DALI 3 that you can use to play around with and generate some images as well. Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, I mean, are there any other cool demos that you can show us? Things that I can demonstrate. The how this is being leveraged in real life applications today.
Sure, yeah. So just now I show you, the screenshot of it, and some of my customers will just say, hey, can you show me something real, right? So there you go, right? So I'm going to show you in live, right? Let's see. So I'm going to toggle my screen a little bit. So just give me a moment, and I will change my screen. All right.
Going to see
Uh,
behind the scenes today. Awesome.
all right. Are you able to see my browser now?
Yes.
All right. So let's start with a simple one. So I'm actually in an Azure Open AI studio over here. Basically, this is a playground for us to do a quick testing on what we want to do in our application, right? So probably I will start with the a simple one, right? I'll just upload an images, right, where I took in Office, right? So perhaps I can just say, hey, can you tell me what's inside this image, right? A fairly kind of a simple prompt that I put in. So basically, I just take a bunch of bananas and some of the cans. It says that, hey, show two cans of beverage, three bananas, on a wooden surface, right? The can appear unopened. I'm surprised it knows, right? And then the bananas are arranged in a horizontal line below the can, right? Now, just now I showed the example on the car insurance where it's sort of like uh, 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 give me the JSON, right? Perhaps let's see this in action, right, with this example over here, right? Now, so what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to update the system message over here, right? So if I bring down over here, you will see that this will be the prompts that I have, right? You only respond to users based on the images are provided. You only respond in JSON format, and then this is the example that that I provide, right? So likewise, if I save this one, I'll just clear the chat, right? And then maybe I'll just upload the same image again. Tell me what you see in this image. Reply me in JSON, please. Right. So I have the different so-called system message. I customize my prompt as well. That's where you start to see, hey, instead of giving me the description, right, you start to give me the JSON format. Hey, this is a can, quantity 2, item banana, quantity 3, which is, mimicking what the sort of examples that I gave over here, right? So that's one example, right? Now, let's take this idea to one step further, right? I was working with some of the customers, and they were just sharing, hey, we actually deployed, or rather, the customers actually deployed a physical security guard to some of these secure premises, right? They want to inspect what are the items that you bring in, what are the items that you bring out, right? It's more for physical security purposes, right? So, for example, if let's say I'm bringing two hammer into the data center, for repair for whatever reason, right? I should also bring back two hammer out of the data center, right? So this is like kind of simple scenario, but it's actually time consuming. Imagine that if let's say you need to deal with like 20, 30 tools itself, right? If we are adopting this solution over here, it actually totally changed the game, right? So let me just switch my screen a little bit, right? For the time being, I have already captured the images, but I just want to show you the possibilities on what we can do with with this Gen AI over here, right? Let me see over here, all right? So I'm just sharing my another screen. I just wrote a simple application. Just wrote a simple React application for my own testing purposes, right? So you will see that, the prompt are kind of similar. You are a security officer that check in visitor, you perform inventory check, etc. Right? So I just took a picture, beside my at the floor. You will see that it detect, hey, scissors, mark, or computer mouse itself, right? Likewise, if I repeat the same thing for the checkout, right, and then I can then give a prompt, hey, you compare the images representing check-in and check-out, list down the images in quantity in difference, right? So you can imagine that, instead of having like 5 minutes where you're having a security officer to do the inventory check, do the counting one by one, just imagine we take two pictures, send to GPT-4V and ask this guy, hey, can you tell me what is the differences are over here? And obviously in this case, I remove the scissors, you will see that, hey, scissors -1 over here, right? So this is another simple example, but we see that the application is kind of wide for a lot of our customers. Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's a Singaporean within me, having also done national. I'm just thinking like, there's so many different applications for this. When you're thinking about dealing with controlled equipment, I'm just thinking about like the idea of uh, Singaporeans doing standby, the 10-pack items that they have in their field pack when they're preparing to go for national service and outfield. All these different applications, in terms of identifying and speeding up the processes as well to ensure safety and security of these controlled equipment as well. Yeah, very cool.
Correct.
Yeah. Are we gonna look into some video examples as well, or how
Yeah.
is this being applied?
All right. So yeah, so far we are just looking at the images itself, right? Let's take a look on videos as well as explaining behind the scenes how we do some of this integration, right? Before that, maybe let me switch back to my slide again because I'm going to share a little bit of a code, so that we see behind the scenes how does it work, right? So I'm talking back to my slide again, right? This is where I also want to call this out over here, right? Now, so for GPT-4V, so far we have seen that it is processing the images itself, but we do understand that there are some customers where they want to process videos, right? So that's where earlier on I did a quick introduction about the Azure AI services. Indeed, we actually have this one additional things that you don't find in the public version of OpenAI. We actually built an enhancement integration using the Azure AI services. So that allows you to process the video itself, right? So you will see that in this example here, there is a videos and then, you are giving the prompt over here. Then of course, it would then sort of like understand the videos and then give you the example as well. Well, later I'll show you another live example illustrating this as well, right? And whether it's images or videos, you might be asking, hey, behind the scenes, how does it work? It can't be only using the so-called the playground, for us to upload, or we can't force the user to come to the playground and upload the pictures, right? How does the integration work, right? You might be thinking, hey, is it very complicated, right? But as usual, the integration is actually not that complex, right? Behind the scenes, we are just doing an API calls over here. So this is just the body of the API call, which for those eye is sharp, you might be identifying something different over here. In addition to the text over here, we also have the additional so-called item over here, which is putting the image URL or even the binary data of the images itself. So this is where when you call the API, all you need to do is like providing these additional parameters, and this is where the GPT-4V would then be able to understand the images itself, right? Likewise for the Azure AI services enhancement, just now I did show you, right? So how does it work, right? So this enhancement come into two maybe give you additional two capabilities. One is on enhancement on the OCR. Another one is allow you to process a video itself. So what you need to do is that again in your API body call, right? This is where you will then specify this enhancement, putting your API key, the computer vision API key, and the rest is the same. You put in the same content, put in the same images, and this is where you just call the API directly itself. All right. Now, let me switch screen a little bit on showing you a actual demo, right, on processing the videos itself. So again, I'm going to share my VS Code, I mean, it will feel incomplete without showing code. All right. So I'm just showing my VS Code over here. All right. So don't worry about this one. So I just go to, I just go to YouTube, sort of like grab this video over here, right? So basically, it's a video about, a enforcement helping a person, right? So there's like, it's kind of 2 minutes of video over here, right? It's doing all these different thing, right? So this is where what I do is that I can, provide this as a prompt as well, right? So just to quickly walk you through the code, right? You will see this online open source, right? So you don't need to take a screenshot, right? You can grab this online. So I have my video uploaded into the blob storage over here. I specify my, my parameters over here at the top, right? I specify my parameters, and then I start to define some of the functions where I sort of like index the video. So I'm going to skip that part because these are all the boring codes, right? And then this is where I define, right, my API calls are over here, right? Remember earlier on, I was showing you the API call, the bodies, right? The enhancement, this is where I added my enhancement over here to so-called create the payload, right? Now, if I want to call that API over here, so this is the system message that I provide. You're an AI assistant that understands images and video content, right? And this is my prompt that I want to put in, and then I'll just fire up this API call, right? Maybe I will, to make sure that this is live. Maybe I'll just change the prompt over here, right? I don't know. What is the name of the person inside the room, right? Just now in this video. All right, so this is my prompt over here. So I'm just send over here. We might see that it's running over here. So you start to see that why it's so powerful in the sense that it actually understands the video itself. It actually go through the videos, identify the content within the video itself, and then generate a response for me, right? So in this case, in 12 seconds, I know that hey, the person inside the room is called Stefan, right? Rather than I spend like 1 minute and 46 a second to go through the entire video to find the answer I need, I can actually just use the prompt with the video to say, hey, the person is called Stefan, right? Maybe I want to write a report or whatever, right? So that's how you see the GPT-4V get applied on videos, right? Now, just now I also mentioned about another use case on automating the workflow, right? Now you know the magic behind the scenes where it's nothing but doing an API call, right? I'll just show you another common use cases for corporate customers, right? Especially on, for example, right? I want to automate MC, medical certificate approval. Simple things, right? It's like the users will actually snap a picture of their MC, send to an email, wait for a while, someone will go and take a look and then verify, okay, are you lying or whatever, and then only says approve or whatever, right? But what if we are able to get the a GPT-4V in this case to sort of like I wouldn't say doing the approval, but at least understand the content, right? So what I've done before this call is that I'm just sweeping back to my browser again. So I just created a fake one for sure, right? As you can tell from here, I just created a fake MC over here with the name, all these informations are over here, right? And then what I did is that I just sent a normal email, right? I just sent a normal email with this attachment over here. Simple thing, right? But the magic behind the scenes is that we are able to do, let me just quickly show you this one. I'm just using one additional Azure service called Logic App to actually help me to automate the entire process over here. So when I receive an email with an attachment, right, you will see that I actually grab all the different attachment, put into the blob storage so that I can get a URL. I would then call the so-called API over here, right? I purposely change the URI so that no one can copy my key, right? But I wrote a small little application that actually called GPT-4V to extract all this information out. And once I extract the information, I will then send a message to Teams. Maybe I send a message to my boss, and then the boss can decide, whether you want to approve or not approve, and then it will then generate a reply, right? So this is how it looks like. I just sent, 4:56, which is about, 50 minutes ago, right? So you will see that with this MC over here, right, it will be able to extract the informations that are asked for example, the name, the NRIC, the hospital, the durations, etc. And then this is where, instead of me checking the PDF, I can just look at this one and say, okay, you know what, I approve your MC, right? So you start to see that, the power of the GPT-4 will get integrated into the application, into the so-called workflow automation itself. All right.
Yeah.
So Kevin, you have any questions for me? Yeah.
No, I mean, that sounds great. I mean, from a workflow perspective, I see this, helping with just getting the relevant information out more quickly into a text format. Sometimes when we think about copying content from a image or PDF document and ingesting into other systems, MC use case is great. Invoicing use cases is also another one that I see a lot of customers come to asking about. I think just to also highlight, I think we went through a lot of stuff very quickly in terms of image recognition or pulling out information from an image. You went through the video analytics example as well on how in those type of use cases, you can actually leverage, GPT-4V, GPT-4 Turbo as well to really start to summarize and understand contextual information from a video, right? So coming back to that use cases that you're talking about, CCTV footage, reviewing of incidences or identifying safety risks. It just makes it so much more effective for the way that we can comb through some of these large amounts of unstructured data that we are having to work with as well. So, I mean, I'm overwhelmed. I think it's really the whole new era of Gen AI. And I'm excited to see what more we can do with it. I mean, we've gotten through text, we've gone through video now. I think what's safe to say is how are you thinking about also interacting with from a speech or a voice kind of perspective?
All right. Yeah. So let me bring up the slide again, right? So yeah, I know we go through a lot, right? But let me just give you more things, right? So just as I was mentioning, all these various components and build on top of it, right? And I was just using an analogy, right? Can think of the GPT-4 model is like a brain, right? And then now with a 4V, you sort of like give your application the eye, right? So that they can see the world, right? Now, one more additional dimension, how about we are getting our application to be able to listen and speak, right, to us as well. I think that would be really, really interesting, right? So this is where, the integration with the Azure AI Speech come into picture, right? So Azure AI Speech is not a new service. It has been, in the market for like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years. It's been there for quite some time. But along the way, we are building a lot of new capabilities. For example, I mean, the usual stuff like, speech to text, text to speech, those are the kind of usual stuff that we will have. But some of the additional things that we do, right, is, for example, neural voice, right? Maybe you want to have your, application speak the specific tone, right? Or maybe you want to train your own voice so that, the bot sort of like, speak your own tone itself, right? So this is where the customer neural voice will come into picture, where you can train your own voice and then enable your application to do so, right? Of course, there are also scenario whereby, hey, besides a speech, maybe I also want to have an avatar, right? We've gone through the era of like a metaverse, and avatar is something we do see it coming as well. So that's where within the Azure AI speech umbrella, we do provide capabilities on creating your own avatar, right? Right now, as we speak, today, May 2024, the service is in preview, right? But I thought it's kind of exciting, right, to show you guys the how does the avatar looks like, right? So this is how the UI looks like, where you are able to select, the different avatar that you want, change the background. You can then, put in the text that you want. It will then generate the videos for you. All right. So maybe I will want to do a few quick demo to show you, the use case over here. All right. So
Sounds
let
good.
me change my screen again. I know I keep like toggling the screen. Let me share my screen again, and this time round, I
Always
would need
great when we go from, slides into proper demos. I think that's where we really get to like see behind, just a slide presentation to see how it actually all works. So that's fantastic.
correct, right. So before I go to the avatar, which is the most exciting part, I just wanted to show you the Azure AI speech first. So this is the speech studio. So you will see that there are various components that you can do over here. For example, custom voice, personal voice, right? Audio content creation, text to speech avatar that I mentioned. Some of these are real-time speech to text over here as well, right? So, in actual fact, if let's say there are certain use cases that you want, there are certain components that you can use directly out of the box as well, right? I actually quite like this voice gallery, because every time when I start to do a PUC with customers, this is where the first question I ask them, hey, what persona you want to enable for your application itself over here. So you will see that, when I mention about the neural voice over here, we have like, 500 voice over here. I'm sure that, you will have one voice that that you like, that represent, your organization well, right? So you will see that, just as English, for example, right, there are different so-called localized kind of a slang that we include in, and then there are different so-called name over here. You can actually, listen to some of the example over here, right? So this is like, Ava, right?
The name Daddle was derived from the Spanish and Catalan language.
So, I just play a short clip over here. So I think it's a playground for us to, find which voice actually match the one, match our brand itself, right? And for you to consume the service, again, it's just a REST API call to consume that. All right. Now, so combining what we discussed earlier on, we have the GPT-4 model, we have the GPT-4V that sees the world, and I briefly mentioned about this voice, right? Now, what if we combine everything together with an avatar, right? I think that would be super exciting. So I'm going to switch to another screen, all right, so that I can share the audio over here. Let's see, this is the one. All right. Now, the use case are kind of, I would say, useful and useful to everyone. To be frank, when I was developing this, I was having a lot of fun. So the use case is simple, right? Perhaps I'm preparing for an interview, right? For a new job, right? I need someone to practice the interview with me, right? I want to anticipate what are the questions that will being raised, or maybe is there any learning points that I don't know, right? Imagine we give the GPT model, right, the necessary system prompt, so that the AI will act as an interviewer, and then in this case I will be the interviewee, right? So let me just show you how it looks like. I'll just quickly log into my application first, right? Oops, you will see my password. It's okay. All right. I'm just logging into my dummy Contoso application. All
Hello,
right.
my name is Lisa. Welcome to the interview for Contoso. Please take your time and find a quiet space to minimize disruption. Let me know once you are ready.
So you start to see I have a virtual avatar that actually do interview with me, right? So please bear with me with the last 2 minutes. I'll just do a very quick interview, right? Yes, I'm ready.
Great. Let's get started. Please introduce yourself and tell me why you are interested in applying for the role of Microsoft Azure Security Engineer.
So my name is Marcus. I think security is very important in a digital world. So I want to explore this particular role.
That's great, Marcus. Security is indeed crucial in today's digital landscape. Now, let's move on to the next question. Can you please share with me your intention to apply for the role of Microsoft Azure Security Engineer?
I think Microsoft do provide a good security solutions, and that's where I want to leverage my knowledge and share how security can be integrated to the application.
That's a fantastic intention, Marcus. Microsoft Azure does offer robust security solutions, and your desire to leverage your knowledge and integrate security into applications aligns perfectly with the role of a Microsoft Azure security engineer. Now, let's move on to a technical qualification question to assess your skills. Can you explain what Azure Active Directory, AAD, is and its role in securing Azure resources?
All right. I'm going to stop the conversations over here. Otherwise, I will keep continue, talking to this avatar because I truly enjoy, talking to this avatar and learn something new, from based on the prompt itself over here, right? But this is where you start to see, right? I can have the kind of a very natural kind of a conversation with the bot itself, rather than the typical bot press one for this, press two for that, right? In this case, I can really just using a free text, and behind the scenes is actually running a GPT-4 model together with the avatar service to sort of like understand the questions and then generate the interview questions to me, right? So a very good example, and I did enjoy a lot when I'm building this demo. Kevin, I mean, after this session, I'm
Yeah,
sure that I will share this with you. You can play around with that.
yeah. I mean, I think fantastic use case. Again, coming back to use cases, this idea of instruction and of practice, right? A lot of times today, when we think about um, the, even in school context, you typically have an instructor, or in training context, you have an instructor who has to deal with a one to many students type of scenario. So that could be your lecture format, that could be your training format. But when it comes to then actually getting that hands-on or that practice, be it in an interview setting or in a mock examination type of setting, I mean, I can see this really playing a role in that space as well. So very cool in terms of the use cases of having these avatars that we can interact with, that has a knowledge asset library behind it that we can query and speak to as well. Very cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, I mean, I learned so much today. Thank you very much for sharing. I think we do have a bit of time for some additional questions. And I mean, I think maybe we should also be sharing where else can we find some of these additional resources or get more details about all this cool developments that's happening.
All right. Yeah, I'm glad that you enjoy the sessions. Hopefully, spark some ideas for you. So yeah, it's tons of resources. So these are some of the QR codes that I will encourage the audience to sort of like scan and check out some of the content as well. It actually leads to some of the bit size content as well as the documentation of some of the models that I mentioned. So for sure, that will serve as a good starting point, to get your hands dirty on creating your own application. So, feel free to take a screenshot, or scan a QR code, bookmark them, and then, start to get your hands dirty building your own application.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing all these resources. And I mean, I've tried out these resources, not nearly as much as like the many different certifications that Marcus has gotten, but I mean, what I enjoy is that it does allow you to get that hands-on experience, apart from the videos, the text lectures and slides. You're actually encouraged to actually open up your own Azure tenant, Azure account to get your hands dirty as well. So thanks for sharing the resources.
All right.
All right.
I suppose there are some questions from the audience, or yeah.
All right, looking through, I think there were some questions around other cloud models as well, and LLMs being slow to train. Very good comment over there. So, I mean, definitely with large language models, the amount of parameters that they go through, um, yeah, billions, right? Potentially even in the trillions in future as well. So, um, does take a lot to train it and so on. And that's, I think, why we are seeing some of these models take time to, new models take time to get really refined and published as well. How else are we seeing, I'm also seeing that this new emergence. I think in your slide you mentioned this emergence of small language models. That could be a way that we supplement the amount of time that it takes to train these large language models in certain use cases. It seems we may not need that breadth of data. In specific use cases, yeah, we could benefit from using small language models that are fast to train and that can be specific purpose built, right? So Microsoft, I think, recently launched the Phi 3 small language model as well. So different ways that we're seeing this AI space, generative AI space, evolve as well.
Yeah, but I actually like the comment from Karthik on on getting very slow to train new data, right? I think for those who have done a lot of data science project, we kind of used to the way where we collect the data, train the model, evaluate the model, serve the model, collect more data, retrain the model again. So this is where the ML ops are coming into picture, right? Of course, in a Gen AI LM context, right, we all spot on, right? It's a very huge model, right? Huge in the sense that we are looking at like billions, like I don't know, 300 billions or even like trillions of parameters on the kind of size of the model, right? Definitely, none of us as an individual can afford to purchase like let's say NVIDIA GPU card to do the training, right? So you are right that the model sort of like get a snapshot of the data that being used to train, right? But it actually doesn't stop us on uh, 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 leveraging this model in the sense that there are few patterns, for example, what we call RAG, retrieval augmented generation patterns, where perhaps we can use an AI search to actually crawl through the latest data, and then we augment with the large language model to generate the response that we need, right? So this is a common use cases that we have seen to sort of like let the LLM to access the latest data, right? Another simple example, Bing Copilot, right? It's free, everyone can use. That's where the LLM model behind the scenes will be able to access the information from the internet and then augment with the responses itself, right? Very very valid considerations here.
Yeah. There is a question on GPT-4. Oh, GPT-4 Omni. When's the API going to be available? I mean, I myself am excited about getting my hands dirty with GPT-4. I think parts of it is already being rolled out into the Chat GPT app. I think the text portion of it, maybe not so much on the image and the video and the voice portion of it yet. But yeah, I know, Marcus, do you happen to have any insights on when this API is going to be available? Is it something that people have to stay tuned for the next session?
Right. Just now I purposely hide something so that we can't see. I kind of anticipate that questions, right? So I'm sharing my screen again, right? Back to the same banana example that I used, right? I thought I purposely hide this page over here for a simple reason, right? For those who have been using a playground, you may have noticed this is a slightly different title called Early Access Playground, right? So this is something in really in preview, right? If I toggle to the model itself, right? As you can see over here, I'm actually using a GPT-4o preview model, right? But what I'm showing over here is a preview. It's not the full version. It's not the final version, right? It's really for the early access, folks to sort of like get access and get their hands dirty on using it, right? If you ask me when will it get launched, to the hands of developers to start developing it, honestly speaking, I wish to find out this answer as well because I'm eager to try it out. So I'm so sorry I don't have an answer for you. Perhaps we just need to stay tuned. Who knows? Like some of the blog posts may give some hint.
Yeah, and I mean, technology has shown us that it's probably sooner than later with the pace at which things are being developed as well. So, yep, hopefully we have that soon. Thank you very much, Marcus, for this incredible session on multimodal AI and how we see LLMs coming into the space as well. Really enjoyed this conversation that we had today.
All right, and thanks for Kevin for having me and Suzanne for sure. Right, I think maybe I'll just hand over the time back to Suzanne.
Thank you. That was fun. Love the engagement, love the questions. So let's all guess how many screens Marcus has. Okay, I'm just joking. Yeah, just jokes aside. Okay, so I always learn so much from Marcus's session. He makes like the most difficult concepts sound so digestible, and I love the demos. He's like the best magicians, pulling out so many cool tricks, impressing us all the time. But then, unlike most magicians, he will tell you how he performs the tricks lah. So I think it's really great. And I also learned today that Marcus likes talking to bots in his free time. So, and his assistant today, Kevin, summarized all the concepts, making it very succinct. So, kudos to both speakers. I'm very, very grateful that you're on today's show. So yeah, we're running short on time, but I would really want to encourage you to, click on the links that Marcus has provided. It's actually on the YouTube description because learning really doesn't stop here. Um, and if you enjoyed today's session and you find it helpful, please join us for our last episode of this season's Startup AI School. We're just taking a pause after next week. So the next session is on Azure AI Fundamentals Prep. So if you are going for the certification, I think this session itself would be super helpful. We purposely, theme it that way such that you can take a break, attend a session, and then we'll come back again for more. So yeah, and if you're planning to, if you have an idea what you want to see, next season, let us know as well. Perhaps it could be something along the lines of Kevin showing us a tour of the experiential center, showing us the use cases of AI being adopted in different industries, or even Marcus is showing us more interesting demos. Yeah, so just drop it in the chat so that we know. Yeah, and I'm just going to move on to the next slide. Yeah, so so let us know. Yeah, exactly. There's a link here, the survey, click on it. And switching gears a little, you probably know that our mission at Microsoft is to empower every human and organization to achieve more, right? And this includes startups as well. So we want to enable founders to be able to solve world problems and build a better future. So I'm going to sound like I'm actually selling something, but really not. And if you've heard this before, pardon me, because good things must share, right? So Marcus, can you click on the next slide? Thank you. Yeah, so basically, good things must share. If you have plans to create a product centering around AI or accelerate our AI innovation, we do have the Microsoft for Startups Founders Hub. It's basically a dynamic platform and ecosystem that founders, we can support founders from ideate stage all the way to development, growth, and skill. So we're talking about open AI credits and up to 150 Azure credits, etc., and lots of support from experts, etc. So please feel free to click on it. Yeah. So I think that's all we have. I basically just ran like a train. Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone. I mean, feel free to let us know your comments. Marcus and Kevin, before we go, is there anything else that you want to add?
No, this has been a blast. I'm always excited to see how technologies are changing the way that we work, and I'm excited to hopefully hear back from some of the attendees, from participants from today, on how they've learned and how they've applied some of this in their own use cases as well. So thanks everyone for joining us today.
All right. Thanks for having me and enjoy the evening.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye, everyone.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.